literally learned how to use hashtags. And at that time, I was doing a little bit of research on a concept called gamification. Right, so I thought, well, actually, I wonder whether this tool will help me to learn about gamification. So I found that people were using a hashtag gamification, really simple, and loads of stuff came up. And as I started to read about it, very, very quickly, I started to find the people on Twitter who actually had something valuable to say and were an expert on the subject. And I'd certainly noticed all these other hashtags that people were using to talk about gamification. And then from Twitter, all of a sudden I'm clicking on links and I'm on SlideShare and I'm looking at really valuable materials on a topic and how people are using it. And then I'm on YouTube and watching a Google video about how they're experimenting with gamification. And it just went on and on and on and on from there. And then I took the next brave step, and it does feel like a brave step on Twitter. I started talking to people, and I started tweeting, and I started engaging. And all of a sudden, I ended up taking this sort of digital virtual world to a real world and meeting a few people who then sat down and actually showed me some examples of how they're using gamification in their environment, and invited me along to sort of almost like training events, with free training events, even better, so that I could actually really get to grips with what this thing is. And that's fantastic. And actually, if I hadn't experimented with Twitter, I never would have found that tool out there. You know, and I've done that so many times now. And what I find amazing about this, and absolutely applicable, is it ticks so many boxes for me. You know, Bill Gates used to talk about how he used to go and hide up in one of his cabins in the mountains and take a load of magazines with him that had nothing to do with anything that he was interested in, like Horse Weekly or something like that. I made that up, I don't know if that's real. And he used to just sit there and trawl through these magazines just to see what's going on, what are all these other groups of people about, what are they interested in, are there any other opportunities for me to do something different with my software or break into a new market. But actually, now, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of these things make that whole task so much more easier, but almost two-dimensional, three-dimensional, whatever you want to call it, because it's not just picking up a magazine and being really static and just having a load of ideas. Now I can test those ideas, I can engage with people and see if anyone's interested. You know, another story with Twitter, I actually had a load of ideas of how we can use gamification in the supply chain and logistics field, so I started writing about them on Twitter. I mean, you only get 160 or 140 characters, so it's like sending a text message. It's not like you can have an in-depth conversation or you can have an in-depth article on there. And all of a sudden, a load of supply chain companies started following me and started replying back and saying things like, that's a great idea, I think I'm going to go and try that, I'll give you some feedback. And we exchanged emails, and now I have a load of feedback on those ideas. And in some cases it didn't work, in some cases it did work. And that was great, you know, so I haven't spent a single penny. I've come up with a load of ideas through the stimulus on Twitter. I've engaged with a bunch of people and built some relationships. And some of those people have gone and tested some of those ideas. You know, what a great story. I mean, I'm going to do much more of that, and I totally encourage everybody else to do that kind of thing. So that's the crowdsourcing environment. But I'm just going to move on to an image, but just before I do, just something that's popped into my head. A really good example of crowdsourcing, story that I've heard, is something that BBC did when they created the iPlayer. Apparently, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but I heard that Channel 4 came up with the concept before BBC did, but BBC got to market first. And the way that they did that is they got a bunch of really enthusiastic, mainly developers, into a room, gave them lots of coffee, gave them lots of toys to play with, and said, right, let's just brainstorm about these ideas, much in the same way that I talked to you at the beginning about providing stimulus and providing facilitation. Let's come up with a load of ideas. And what would this look like? How would we do it? What are people interested in? What would you use on here? And they very quickly developed that idea into a proposition. And then they turned around to all those individuals and said, well, if you're really that interested, then do you want to get involved? Well, we haven't got any money to pay you, but do you want to get involved, and do you want to actually help us develop some of this stuff? And they did. And they got involved, and they produced this platform and on a shoestring. And now it's one of the most successful platforms of its kind on the internet. I mean, I don't think I know anyone who doesn't know of iPlayer or doesn't use iPlayer. And every single month, it seems to advance in some way. So that is another form of crowdsourcing, getting people in a room, really engaging with them. If the virtual world doesn't work, then this type of thing does work in the real world. And you'll be amazed at how many people will come and help you if you just ask them to. To kind of build on that, open innovation, if you've heard of open innovation, it's not really that new an idea. Connect and Develop, Procter & Gamble rather, coined this term Connect and Develop, this brand Connect and Develop, and they were one of the first people to kind of really take this on and take it to the market. But a lot of organisations are kind of doing this previously. And effectively all they did was they said, well hang on a second, do you reckon we could get some ideas from our suppliers? Not just our customers, because they've all got capability, technology capability, they've all got knowledge that we don't have. And actually, could we go and talk to some universities? Could we just talk to some people that are interested in our products? You know, could we actually get to our customers? And then they said, well actually, if I can talk to these people, maybe I can share some of my ideas, and maybe I can start collaborating with some of these people. And all of a sudden, they created this immense network that really helped them not just come up with those ideas, but actually turn them into real products and then get them into the open marketplace. And there are a plethora of organisations out there doing this type of thing now. There are a few spin-offs from Procter & Gamble, funnily enough, that are doing this. But you know, I talked about co-creation earlier. One real interesting thing that I've taken from this model is this whole concept that you can create your products with your customers. You know, in the earlier slide, I mentioned threadless versus Gap. What's really interesting about threadless, as I understand it, compared to Gap, is they go to their customers and they say, design our products for us. You design our products, and if I understand correctly, I think they get people to vote on them, and then they go and make them. But they've already, by getting their customer to design it, they've already got a customer to sell it to, and then by getting people to vote on it, they then know exactly what they should manufacture and what they're going to make money on. And Gap don't do that. And very, very quickly, Gap probably thought to themselves, well, this is a piddly little company that's not really going to go anywhere. And then suddenly taken over the market share, at least in the US, from Gap, which is amazing. I talked about Lego earlier. Lego are an amazing story, in my opinion, because they realised that they were going to take a couple of their products off the market. And in taking these products off the market, they got a load of complaints. They were things like toy train models and things like that. And what was really interesting, they got complaints not from children, as they expected, that's who they thought their market was. They got their complaints from middle-aged men who had grown up with Lego and still collected these products. And they thought, well, that's really interesting. We didn't know that that demographic is interested in our product, so much in the same way that I played it, let's call these guys in and let's talk to them, let's engage with them and see what they're all about. I mean, Lego at the time were actually struggling, so they called them on and they started talking to them and they started to realise that, okay, let's not pull those products, but there's another dimension to this, and the other dimension is around, now I'm talking to my customer, they are telling me what they want, and by telling me what I want, actually, they seem to be really, really excited about designing the product themselves. So if I let them design the product, maybe then we don't have to have all these designers. So they created a platform. If you go to their website, you'll see this great tool which you can download. I have to admit, I downloaded it and played with it for a while, which is quite exciting. And it's almost like a piece of CAD software. You can play with it, you can make bricks, you can change the colour, you can do all sorts of stuff. And what's interesting in that story is, although they created this thinking that this middle-aged group would use it a lot, actually kids started using it a lot. They started using it in schools. It's used as a learning tool now as well. And kids make them, and in the same way that Threadless go out to their customer and get the customer to vote, they get the customers to vote on who's got the best designs and whether or not they should go and manufacture them. So, brilliant model. I'm making something that my customer has told me that they want. I'm making it with them. I'm not spending money in the wrong areas. I know where I'm going to make money from. And that's absolutely transformed the organisation once again to being at the sort of forefront of the toy industry, which is absolutely brilliant. So, you know, talk to your customers, get out there, talk to your customers' customers. These things don't just work in the B2C market, they do work in the B2B market as well. And just to kind of, you know, a lot of people say that, but just to kind of give you an example of an area, I'm working with someone at the moment who is effectively working with small to medium technology developers, and he's doing something very similar. He's kind of getting to know what their technologies are, And then he's going along to larger organisations, right? It's a cross between open innovation and this co-creation model. And he's saying, right, large organisations, you tell me what you want. Tell me what it is that you're working on. Tell me what's interesting at the moment. Let's start looking at your market trends. Let's look at your products. And then I will take it on as a challenge to go along to these small to medium organisations, and I will make sure and find the technologies that will help you make your products, right? So that's a bit more of the open innovation field. And then he's taken that to the next step. He said, well, actually, if you're not sure what your market trends are, if you're not sure what your customers want, I'll actually go to your customers as well. And I'll go and start having a conversation with them, and I'll do all of this, even the best part of the world, I'll do all of it free of charge. I'll go and talk to your customers, because I know for a fact that after I've spoken to your customers and I've engaged with customers, I'll come back to you and I'll sort of manage that relationship. I'll bring you the people who are going to make the product for you, I'll bring you the people who want the product, and then you just have to put the money down and actually make it happen. So absolutely great model, and it's a combination of all of those sort of ideas and all those things. Now, I don't know whether anyone noticed, but I did refer to myself as a sorcerer's apprentice at the beginning, because sometimes it does feel like you have to be a magician. I always remember Fantasia when Mickey Mouse, you know, he sneaked up and put the hat on and thought he'd be really clever. He'd get the brooms to kind of grow some arms and start to clean up everywhere, and it seemed really exciting. And then also it went all horribly wrong on him. And innovation is a bit like that. Sometimes your ideas do feel really exciting, and sometimes they do go horribly wrong. But the thing to take away from it is you'll always learn something, and you'll always know what to do better or differently next time. And that has to happen as an innovator. But also the other thing that I've learned is you do need a little bit of structure. And it is a little bit of structure. It's not, you know, if you put too much structure into it, you take out the experimentation and you don't get anywhere. Large organisations tend to suffer from that a lot. You know, the beauty of smaller organisations is there is a lot more agility, but even small organisations can fall into the trap of putting too much structure. And that structure, I mean, to follow really what I've been talking about today, is you have to have tools and ways of doing things that help you search for new ideas. And once you've found those new ideas, filter them out, go through a process, like that business model canvas, but it doesn't have to be that. There are lots and lots of other tools out there that help you to start thinking, you know, is this the idea that I should be working on? Don't automatically jump to writing a business plan. You know, I can't think of it any time it's the right thing to do. I mean, banks aren't giving money out anymore anyway, so pointless putting a business plan in front of them. You know, come up with innovative ways of thinking through your idea and working out whether it's the right thing for the market, and use all that new information, the new source of information that's out there. And then once you know what you're going to do, commit to it. Stuart talked at the beginning of this series about rebels and pirates. Right? One phrase that we used to coin or call these individuals at Unipart is your Spartacus. We called it Spartacus because it was the person who believed passionately in the idea, but believes it to a point that they're going to get to that point where they say, I'm not going to listen anymore, because you have to stop listening at some point. I'm not going to keep on hearing all these people give me their ideas about why I shouldn't do this or why I should do this. I'm just going to say, I feel confident enough now, within the boundaries, you know, within the money I have available to me, within the resources I have available, I feel confident enough now to actually take it to that next level and make it happen. And I'm not talking about blindly jumping in, but just jump in, keep a watching brief, but jump in and really make it happen and knock down those barriers. And unless you come up against a really solid brick wall, which means that you might have to change things a little bit, make it happen. Now, to go back to one of my earlier examples and to finish off, a lot of these sessions have been about telling stories, so I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about myself. So I mentioned about India. But India was a great experience for me because effectively, Unipart, I mentioned 10,000 employees, big organisation, but effectively when this idea came along, it was a bit scary, and as an organisation we thought, wow, we like the idea of it, and actually the idea came externally. Somebody came to us and said, you should be in India. And we thought, yeah, it's a great idea, but a bit scary, don't know whether we should do it, don't want to spend a lot of money thinking about whether we should do it. So I put my hand up and I thought I'd be the rebel and the pirate and the Spartacus, and I thought this is a good idea, we should do it. So I said, right, send me out there for 3 months. Got out there, right? Having, again, this being on a shoestring, I got out, the first thing I did was I learned to eat meals in restaurants outside of the hotel because it was 10 times cheaper. I learned how to find places generally that were cheaper just to kind of operate my life. And I got connected to lots and lots of local people. And it was really difficult, but you know, lots of people kept telling me, you know, this is not the right thing to do, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But I had to become that Spartacus at some point. And for those 3 months, as far as I was concerned, we were going to do it, and it was going to happen. And I'm really happy to say that Unipart now has a business in India, a very successful business, and has won several contracts and is operating. But absolutely, you have to believe, and you have to use all of those tools. And one thing that I did out there, telling the story a little bit back to them, one of the things I did is I used a lot of this sort of thinking, these sort of tools. So, you know, in the same way that I talked about social media, getting out there and listening, when I got out there, I found loads of people who I thought might want to buy my product. But instead of writing this long, big business plan and assuming these people were going to buy my product, I just actually went and sat in front of them. I kept banging on that door, knocking on that door. I found some people locally who had excellent relationship, built up a good rapport with them. They then took me along to these customers and I said, look, I don't want to be the arrogant Western company coming to tell you what to do. I want to be the sort of the company that comes in, asks you the question, what do you want? What do you think I can offer you that would be of interest? And do you actually know what I do? So let's share a little bit of that and let's really get to understanding. So I was constantly testing. I thought I knew what they wanted. But actually when I started talking to them, what they wanted and what I thought I could deliver to them were two slightly different things. So I had to change the proposition slightly before we actually took this to market. And after listening and listening and listening, we came up with something really great. And then I came back to the UK, and then I presented that, and the business thought, yeah, actually that's quite good. I don't have to spend lots of money for a start, and we can actually go out and do that. And so, as I said, really happy to report back that we now operate in India. So it is about having a little bit of structure, lots and lots of stimulated creativity, and anyone